All right, so we're up to 40, which seems like a nice round number to get us started with. So thank you everyone for joining me this evening. My name is Jamie Stamey, and I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Career Development. I'm so pleased to have you all here tonight or afternoon or whatever time zone you're in. I'm really bummed that this is not our normal in-person session, as I know you all are as well. I can only imagine what it's been like for you all the last few weeks as you've been preparing to send your students to Davidson and then actually delivering them to us last week. So I'm really hopeful that as you've been reading the communications from the college and as you were on campus last week, if your student decided to come physically, that you're really starting to see all of the extreme effort and love that my colleagues around campus are putting into making this the absolute best experience they can for our new Davidson students and really making the most out of this situation. So again, we're really excited to have students back on campus. I'm actually in my office in the student union so that I could have stable internet. And it's just so nice to actually see some students walking around outside the window. And that's really what this is all about. And so thank you for joining tonight. I know you've had a lot of opportunities to engage in different ways over these few days, so I'll definitely make it worth your time. So before we get started, just want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. My colleague Josh King is online with us this evening, and Josh is going to be monitoring the chat. So as we go through the presentation, since we do have such a large group, if you would go ahead and type your questions into the chat box, Josh is going to answer those as we go through, and then he'll flag some for us at the end if there are any that he thinks warrant kind of a group conversation or addressing a little bit deeper. And I'll make sure to also leave time at the end of the presentation for other additional questions to be asked if you have something that you'd like to ask in a more personal way. We are recording this session, so if you have any family members who were unable to join us this evening but you think they might be interested, we'll get this live on our YouTube channel tomorrow, and so anybody will have access to that. So with that said, this is a live session. So and because we will be doing Q&A, you all do have the ability to mute and unmute yourselves. So if you could just try to be careful of hitting that unmute button until we get to the point where it's ready for Q&A, I'd really appreciate that. So without further ado, I'm going to start us off with a few clips of the video that we actually shared with your students prior to their return to campus, and just to give you a little bit of an idea of what they've heard from us so far. Now, this video is shortened down. They had a longer version, and I would encourage you to check it out on our YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version. If you haven't watched it already with your student, there's some great interviews with current students that you might find really interesting to hear some student perspectives. So without further ado, let's get this started.
Career development at Davidson is a big part of your student experience, and we have an amazing staff to assist you along every step of the journey. Over the last few years, we've been fine-tuning our staff structure, so every student has options when it comes to career advising. Each member of our team has a specialized role. Our 4 industry advisors, Beth, Lindsay, Dalton, and Kelly, each focus on a specific industry area, and within that area, they are responsible for employer engagement and external relationship building, which allows them to understand industry trends and provide in-depth guidance to students. Our population advisors, Raquel and Josh, are specifically trained and focused on working with international students and scholar athletes. They provide customized services that recognize the specific needs of these two student groups. And we're not done yet. Gaylena and Salim work with students who are interested in undergraduate and postgraduate fellowships and scholarships. Salim also has a focus on first generation and other underrepresented student populations. And for those students who are starting right from the beginning, Ashley provides advising and develops programming to help students explore their personal interests and abilities and how those might connect to career opportunities. While they don't meet directly with students, Kayla and Julie are the pins that keep us all together. Kayla coordinates all the CCD messaging you receive, and Julie can help answer any question by directing you to the right point of contact. So what is career development? Think of it as an iceberg. You can stand at the top of the iceberg and maybe you feel pretty content. You do the basic work, you hop on the path that's right in front of you, you do the thing that you always thought you'd do, or what everyone else always thought you would do. But is that really enough? The liberal arts is all about going deeper. In your time at Davidson, you'll be introduced to things like a course, a project, or a club that will open your eyes to experiences and careers you may have never known to exist. You'll spend the next 4 years culminating experiences and academic preparation that will allow you to narrow down your choices. All the tools are right here in the Center for Career Development. Our vision is to help you build the clarity, confidence, and skills you'll need to navigate any professional development opportunity that comes your way. Explorer, intern, researcher, grant recipient, law school applicant, Rhodes Scholar. We'll help you get all the way around the iceberg.
All right. So I promise that it's not ego that's driving me to narrate a film that I am also presenting. It just happened to work out that way. But I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of the message that we're starting to send to your students. The work that we do in career development is really important. And I think it is really important overall at Davidson College. We are not just a job placement. We're not here just with a bulletin of jobs or internships. A student comes in and we hand it over to them. We're really here to help prepare them for navigating the career journey, helping them to identify their interests, their passions, how those things can relate to a career. But we're also here to help them engage in different activities that will help them to really build their skill sets and amongst other things. So for us, it's not just a focus on getting them a great job when they graduate. That's a part of what we do, but it's also about really helping prepare them to take these liberal arts skill sets that they've developed and this training that they've undergone in their 4 years here at Davidson, and really take that out into the world and lead lives of leadership and service. And so we do that through kind of 4 foundational pillars that we're going to talk about a little bit as we go through this presentation. We focus on professional programming. We offer career advising. We really have a big focus on employer engagement. A lot of schools are not able to offer everything that we are offering as a school the size of Davidson. A big part of what we do is develop relationships with employers and graduate schools, not only to create those job and grad school opportunities, but to help students dig in, to learn more, to identify early on, is this even something that I'm interested in pursuing before they get too far into it to kind of change their mind or back up. And then the last thing that we have a focus on is fellowships and scholarships. And this is really unique. This doesn't typically live in a center for career development. This typically would live in an academic area. And so it's really unique to have this with us, where we can really broaden the outreach, broaden the reach and the scope of students who are able to engage in opportunities like pursuing the Fulbright or a Rhodes Scholarship for postgraduate opportunities, but then also undergraduate opportunities that they can pursue during their time here at Davidson. So over time, we've learned a few lessons. I didn't mention, by the way, that in my introduction that this is the start of my 7th year here at Davidson. And prior to this, though, I have spent almost 15 years total in higher education, mostly specifically focusing on experiential learning and career development. And so over that time, myself and our team, we've really started to identify what are the things that Davidson students specifically need. We've come to realize that there is not a one size, fits all scenario that will work for every student. But a lot of students really need a starting point, because when you start to talk to them about their career, it can get really overwhelming. And so we've developed some roadmaps that can be utilized for each class year that not only can help a student get started, but can help their supporters get the conversation started as well. So I'm going to just give you a quick glance at the first year roadmap. And you will be receiving this information tomorrow. We're going to start our weekly digest message, which family members will receive. So if you don't receive that message by the end of the day tomorrow, you're welcome to reach out to us and let us know, and we'll make sure you get us added to the listserv. But anyway, in this first digest, you will get a link directly to this where you can have access to download. So each roadmap is really designed to give students kind of the two main things that we would recommend they do during the course of that year. So we know that most students are going to do more than that, but we want to make it bite-sized, right? We want to make it seem achievable. So this first year, we're really encouraging students to get their Handshake account activated and create their first professional resume. So just to touch on Handshake a little bit, you're going to hear a lot about Handshake in the communications that we are sending out to you each week. But Handshake is really kind of that one-stop shop for all things career development. It's a platform that where students can go in, they can book their appointments with our advisors, they can see upcoming events, what employers or graduate schools are coming to campus, what skill building workshops are coming up. They can also view thousands of internships and job postings throughout the year. Last year, I believe we posted just shy of 36,000 internship jobs and fellowships in our database. And the last thing they can also find is all of the resources and Davidson specific content that we've developed to help them navigate their journey. So in the resource section of Handshake, they can find the resume guides and templates. They can find specific industry information, information on how to start networking, and more in-depth information that's really specific to Davidson, all things that we have created for them. So you will hear about Handshake a lot from us. I will answer the question now. No, families do not have access to Handshake. So when you start to receive the weekly digest, you're getting the same message that they are. Unfortunately, you won't be able to click on the links and go in and look at the actual job description, for example. However, we provide this information so that you can really help encourage your student in exploring and checking these things out. And Handshake is the place where they will do all of it. And then the second thing that we want them to focus on this year is really starting to develop their first professional resume. Now, all of our students do come in with a college application resume, which is very different than what they're going to need when they start applying not only to external opportunities with employers, but also for Davidson specific opportunities. A lot of things here do require students to submit a resume for review. So again, we have resources to help them get started. They can work one-on-one with an advisor to help them once they get that first draft done and they want to start going deeper. All of these things, we make it really easy for them to do. And then, of course, because we have a lot of overachievers where 2 steps is not going to be enough, we've offered some additional suggestions down at the bottom that we're going to dig into as we continue to move through this presentation. So now just to outline some of the resources that we offer, just to give you an idea of the scope of what it is that we do here in the center. Career exploration is a big part of what we do. There is absolutely no reason for a student to come into this first year or even their sophomore year and possibly their junior year and have it all figured out. I know for myself, going through college, I was a first generation student. It was all I could do just to get through the day-to-day of college in the beginning. And so when you start to have conversations with them about career explorations, it can be somewhat debilitating because they're so worried that they have to have all the answers. And so we really promote the idea and the concept that career exploration is important and perfectly okay. You don't have to know what you're doing. So we offer different services like customized assessments. Some of you might be familiar with those listed, to help them start to explore and get a feel for what are even the options that are out there, and how do they start to learn more. Our advisors that you met in the beginning of our presentation are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Students can set up an appointment through Handshake for a dedicated time, one-on-one with an advisor, but we also offer walk-in services. So this year, because of COVID, our office is going to be completely virtual. So our physical space will not be open, but students will still have all of the same access to our advisors through Handshake. So including those walk-ins. So they'll get the information on how to access that, but those walk-ins can be really helpful when they have just a quick question. Maybe they're working on their resume and they want to get some advice or suggestions. Maybe they have a last-minute interview that comes up and they want to just run through some questions quickly. All of these things can be really helpful to take care of in those walk-in times. And then of course we have more dedicated skill building advising where we can go really much deeper with a student. We can focus on, preparing for interviews through mock interviews. We can help them create a plan for, what are the steps you're going to take as you're exploring or getting to know a specific employer, and how can you make the most of the opportunities that you have in front of you. So again, hopefully, someday soon we'll be in person again, but for right now, all of that's going to be done virtually. The same thing with our on-campus events. We're still going to call them on-campus events, but they will be held virtually. But in a normal setting, we offer a ton of events each year to help students not only engage with employers and graduate schools to learn more, but really start to put their best foot forward and start to make an impression on these stakeholders. So throughout the year, there will be employer meetups. We host on-campus interviews. A lot of employers will work directly with us to do application drops and interviews, but we'll also offer career fair opportunities and one-on-one coffee chats with alumni who might work for a variety of employers so that students can really dig in and learn some more. Workshops and seminars throughout the semester. This year, we're really actually excited about the opportunity to play around with more modes of delivery for these types of activities. So we're being really conscious of the amount of time students are going to need to adjust to this new way of living and learning. So we're working on providing our content in a variety of different platforms so they can kind of choose the avenue and the mode of delivery that works best for them. And then, of course, when it's safe and when we can do it, we will be doing in-person, off-campus opportunities. For example, we have a great career trek program where we can take groups of students to different cities and really dig into specific industries, go and physically visit employers and hear directly from them, see what it's like to live and work in a specific city. And right now we'll offer those opportunities virtually until we know that we can do those things safely. But I promise all of those things will still be accessible to them, and they're not going to miss out on anything from our end of things. Just to give you an idea of the scope of the work that we do, last year we engaged with 95.6% of the student body. And we are really proud of this, and we work really hard to get to this point. And so an engagement there's a variety of levels. It could be they attended an event or they participated in an interview with one of our employers, but mostly it comes through those walk-in hours and those advising appointments. And it really allows us the ability to have these engagements with students to kind of get them hooked. There is nothing that we do that can be done in one session or one engagement. We really try to set students up with the expectation early on that this is a journey and we're going to continue to work with you. And so that's why with our new staffing model that's been in place for this is our, I guess, we are a year and a half into it. Students have a good selection of advisors that they can get to know and then choose the one that they relate to the best. And so, for example, Josh, who's on the line with us, Josh works specifically with scholar athletes. So they all will get a lot of in-depth engagement with Josh through team programming and events and activities. But they also can choose to work with a different advisor. If they know that their industry interest, for example, is in healthcare, they might choose to work with Dalton and just have a better rapport. And so our goal is to make sure that every student can find a person within our team that they feel the most comfortable engaging with as they go through this process. What we do is we don't operate in a bubble. To really maximize the career development experience, we have to recognize that there are a lot of stakeholders that really encourage and support a student through this process. And obviously a big part of that are other campus partners. And so we work really closely with athletics, faculty, those folks who have direct connections with students. But then we're also working really closely with college relations. They're working with us to identify donors and fundraising opportunities to create the events and the opportunities for our students to actually engage in. Families, you all are an extremely huge part of this. Students need the encouragement. Sometimes they need the nagging, to be honest. They need somebody to say to them, hey, have you stopped by the Center for Career Development? Or, hey, did you see this event that's coming up, or this employer, or an information session about this fellowship? Sometimes they need that little bit of encouragement. I think this fall, more than ever, they are getting information coming at them just 100 miles an hour, right? There's constantly going to be updates. There's just a lot more information coming at them. And so they're going to miss out on things. And so it helps us when you all are staying engaged and then also supporting them. And in whatever that support looks like for you, it's really important that you are encouraging them. We've already talked a little bit about the employers. They are a big part of the work that we do. They offer a lot of the services that we provide, but more importantly, they offer us the trends and the industry knowledge that help us keep our programming and opportunities relevant to industry, because we know that the industries are not stagnant, they're constantly changing, and we need our students to be prepared for what the world looks like at any given time. And then alumni. You may have already started to hear the message from other folks around campus about how engaged our alumni are. And likely there are even some alums that are participating in this session. It's something that I didn't believe when I first came to Davidson. I remember going through my interview process and being told, oh my gosh, the alumni network is absolutely amazing. Anything you want, anything you need, they're going to answer the call. I came from a school, I worked at my alma mater, so I had this strong connection to the alumni there. And I have to say, within the first few weeks, I was just completely blown away by the engagement of our alumni, and the way that they just continuously support our students as mentors, They support them through providing funding for internship grants and our career treks. Almost everything that we do is possible because of alumni who are so actively engaged with our office and the college as a whole. So we really tap into that. I don't want to say we take advantage of it, but we definitely do utilize the great knowledge and value that our alumni can bring to our current students. So I mentioned the weekly digest. This is just a little snapshot of what this is going to look like. This is not the exact one that you'll receive tomorrow, but each week we do send out a weekly digest to all students and families that will just help keep everybody informed on what's going on. So in the digest, there are specific sections that will feature internships and jobs, other experiential learning opportunities. Also will highlight the upcoming events, application deadlines, and other professional development opportunities. We also share this with a really large and number of campus partners just to help them stay informed on what our office is doing. And then of course we're communicating with them in a lot of other ways as well. Going back to this idea of the alumni and family networks, which, by the way, if you haven't figured it out yet, you're part of it and you're a huge part and will continue to be a huge part of the Davidson family. We have a really great platform that is called Davidson Connect that allows our students and alumni and family members a really easy way to connect online, to start to develop strong relationships, for students to have exploratory career conversations, to set up mock interviews with professionals in the industry that they're interested in. And in addition to those one-on-one interactions and connections, they can also join shared interest groups. They can view job and internship postings that come directly from alumni, and a lot more. So you'll hear about Davidson Connect throughout the next few weeks and months as we invite you to start engaging in opportunities like this as well. So now I'm going to start to get into some of the key programs that we offer through the Center for Career Development. And one of the biggest program is our job shadowing externship program. So this program is actually quite old. It was old in the sense of it's got a little bit of history. It was already in place when I joined the team 6 years ago, but it's really an amazing opportunity for especially first year and sophomore students to get started in that exploration process. So the job shadowing program is what it sounds like. We put out a call to alumni and families asking them to share a day with a Davidson student, and those students can go and spend a day in the actual work environment, so they could see themselves living and working in that city. If they thought they'd always wanted to work at a big corporation that's super modern and with all the amenities included when you go to work, they can experience that and see what that's really like. And so the job shadowing program is valuable for all class years. It can be especially for those exploring students early on, but then for students as they get closer to graduation and they're looking to really solidify networks and connections within specific organizations, this program can be really beneficial. And we were able to do a really swift change this spring. Typically, this program does take place in late spring and then over the course of the summer. And we were able to get a lot of our alumni and family members who had offered these shadowing opportunities to switch over to more of a mentorship relationship over the course of the summer. So this experience didn't disappear. It still happened, and a lot of students were able to take advantage of that. And I'll say that we do offer funding to students to participate in this program when it does involve travel. So students can apply for some support if they want to, go to New York and spend a night and a day in New York and participate in this program. Another really cool thing that we offer is a really robust internship funding program. I'm particularly proud of this. This is something that I've been working on since the day one of my time here at Davidson. But this past summer, we awarded just shy of $300,000 to students who were pursuing unpaid or low-paying internships or research experiences. And this summer, just given the situation, we also expanded that out to other types of professional development opportunities that maybe weren't a full-time or full summer internship. So maybe it was a professional certification or some other things. So this funding really allows students to pursue the thing they want to pursue. From my experience as a student, and then also getting to know so many of our students here at Davidson, sometimes internships seem really out of reach, because a lot of the internships that our students are specifically interested in are unpaid, right? So nonprofit organizations, political organizations, even in healthcare and in other fields, these opportunities are typically unpaid. And so for a lot of students, that's not an option. They need to have some sort of income over the summer. And so they end up, pursuing just a summer full-time job so that they can focus on earning that income they need. So this funding is really important to extend the access to all of our students who are interested in developing these professional experiences. And to me, this is one of the most important things that we do and offer. And again, all of this can only be made possible by funding that come directly from our alumni and family members and friends of the college. So, this likely was going to look a little bit different this year, but typically those applications open in early March and close in April, but we will adjust that. This past year, we did end up continuing to extend the deadline. Employers were kind of later in making decisions about internships. Some of them were making changes from in-person to remote. And so we worked with students and what they were experiencing to make sure that they would still have access to these opportunities. We also have some other internship programs that you may have heard about already. The Davidson and Washington program is in collaboration with the political science department. This is an amazing summer opportunity where students can spend a full summer in DC. They do participate in seminar with Davidson faculty members, but then they also participate in a full-time internship. The same thing, not exactly the same structure, but a really exciting program in our Davidson and East Asia. This is a fully funded internship program. Each intern receives $5,000 to spend a minimum of 6 weeks in East Asia, participating in a full-time internship. So there's no seminar attached to this one. It is just focused on the internship, but such an amazing experience. And typically we're able to offer about 20 of those internship grants for this program each summer. So I mentioned briefly fellowships and scholarships. This is a big part of Davidson. And in fact, if you look at our, you might remember even early on as you started exploring Davidson, recognizing that the number of Rhodes Scholars that we've produced is something that we really pride ourselves on. Our academic setting is the perfect foundation for students to pursue these and be really successful. So I can't even tell you exactly how many years in a row we've been a Fulbright top producer, but Fulbright is one of the top fellowships and scholarships that our students do pursue. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Fulbright, there's two options within the Fulbright program. They can do a research-oriented Fulbright, so it's a study program, or they can do an English teaching assistant position through the program. But what an amazing way for students to live and work internationally, develop really great skill sets, and participate in just an overall amazing program. And so a big part of what we are doing and why fellowships and scholarships lives within the Center for Career Development is our goal of helping get students get engaged in these things and thinking about these things early on in their Davidson career. Specifically, Salim, who you met in the introductory video, Salim is specifically going to focus on working with students who wouldn't typically pursue these types of opportunities so that we can really help expose a wider audience to these opportunities and the possibilities that they bring with them. So I mentioned we are not just a job placement. We're not a factory just churning it out, but we do keep track because the placement and the outcomes of our students is really important and is a measure of success. So this is information from the class of 2019. Each year we gather this information 6 months after graduation. So this is the data for class of 2019 graduates at the end of November. So you can see here that 76.4% of our students were employed. We had 18% enrolled in continuing education, and then so on from there. These numbers are pretty consistent from year to year. You can go on our website and actually see a lot more of this data for the class of 2019, but you can also see this data for at least, I think it's at least 15 years of data is there. So we can see we do have a high percentage of students who do pursue continuing education. If you were to compare us to our peers, that number is a little bit higher than some of the other peer institutions. But you can also see on the other side of this graph some of the top industries for employment. So education, social community services, nonprofit work, that might not be a surprise to you. And that's an example of where our students' interests lie. Going back to those unpaid internships and unpaid experiences, it's really important that we're able to offer support for students to pursue those because that's where they might want to be going. And then you can see kind of a more even spread across business and finance and consulting, sciences, technology, public policy, all of the others. So again, a lot more of this information available on our website if you'd like to dig in and get to a more granular level, including as students are really thinking about which major they would like to pursue. We do have career outcome data available by major as well. So sometimes that can be an interesting conversation to have with them as we're going through the advising process so that they can kind of see, all right, if you're pursuing this, here's the breadth of opportunities. And a big part of that message is really with a liberal arts education, the opportunities are endless. So if you were to look at that information and look at a specific major, you're going to see graduates went into all of these industries and they can be successful in all of those industries. But a big part of preparing for that is making sure we're setting them up for success. Taking that major, pairing it with experiential learning and other opportunities, taking advantage of other opportunities on campus to really turn them into a really solid and successful candidate to pursue those things after Davidson. So that's the extent of the presentation. We are really active on social media, so we'd love for you to follow us on any of these channels. It's a great way to, we don't typically, we're not just posting all of the events that are coming up. That's what the digest is for. We're trying to share content that will really help students prepare, quick articles that they can read. We share a lot of blog articles written by our students sharing their experiences. So just, the content that we're sharing is really about supplementing the other ways that they're engaging with our office. And so those can be helpful for all of you to stay involved with as well. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. And with all my talking, I have not paid attention to the chat, but it looks like some questions came through there. So before we open it up, Josh, is there anything there specifically that you think we should hit on? Oh, you're still muted.
We had one question that we were able to answer a little bit, but I would like to go more in depth. Just thought it'd be easier to talk through. So the question was about study abroad and if that's feasible as a junior. As you and I both know, it really varies on the industry, and that can, really sway things one way or the other. But can we just talk a little bit more about what that looks like if we have a student who wants to study abroad that spring of junior year or early senior year?
Yeah, right. So that is a really good question. And I think that's a really personalized question. And it can vary, as Josh, you hit the nail on the head, that kind of depending on what their ultimate career goals are, that could really sway that decision. So for example, there are some industries that have a really heavy recruiting cycle in the fall. So let's say, for example, finance and management consulting. Those recruiting cycles they're happening right now for internships and full-time that won't even start till summer of 2021. And so it's really probably wouldn't be a wise decision for a student who's pursuing those opportunities to study abroad during the fall semester, when they really need to be on the ground, networking, having conversations, attending events. So it can be done and has been done, but this is where we would really, really encourage students to start working with us early on. And that's part of the planning process, right? It's part of having those one-on-one conversations with an advisor and talking about what they're thinking of, so we can help give them this type of insight, but then also help connect them with other campus partners who can help inform them as they're trying to make this decision.
Great. And our next question is just talking about for first year students in that first summer, is there a typical route for those students to pursue Davidson Link summer internships?
Yeah. So, the first summer is always interesting for students. Sometimes we get students that come in and they feel frantic about having to get a specific type of internship or a specific type of experience over that summer. And we typically kind of tell them to calm down. That summer is important. They're all important. But we can also help them create value out of a lot of different experiences. So occasionally we'll get a student that will come in to say, I want to go back to the summer camp that I've worked at for the last 4 summers. I want to get one more summer in. And that's okay, because there's a lot of transferable skill sets that we can help them articulate, that they're going to be able to share with a future employer as they go through other processes. That's not a lost summer. There are also some students who are just not ready to commit to a full-time internship over the summer. So that's where we're going to talk to them about what are the other opportunities, like the job shadowing program. How do we set up career conversations or informational interviews with alumni so that they can be networking and making connections and learning over the summer, but they're not necessarily committed to a full-time internship over the course of 10 or 12 weeks. So for those students who are interested in pursuing an internship, staying in tune with all of the opportunities that we're offering throughout the year is the best suggestion that I can offer. The weekly digest is a great way to stay informed of upcoming deadlines. But I would really encourage any student that we work with. It's not just our office that's offering these opportunities. There are really great summer experiences happening in the Center for Civic Engagement, the HURT Hub for Innovation, all across campus. There's great research programs all across campus. These things are being offered. And so it's really about keeping your eyes open and looking everywhere, and just paying attention. A lot of students miss out on these opportunities because they're just not keeping their eyes open. And so deadlines sneak up on them, but the information is there. And that's where we're here to help them, whether it's one of our programs or just helping them prepare for another. We're here to help them navigate all of that.
And just to add on to a little bit of that, if we have any parents on this call that are parents of scholar athletes, that's a really common question, especially in particular sports where they're competing over the summer. That's something where I can work with them a lot with. A lot of our student athletes work camps. That's like Jamie said, a really transferable skill. And even if they're not, there's other opportunities that we can do virtually, or even if they're on campus training, there's things that we have on campus that can be great, resources. We just generally tell them to at least get something on the resume, whether it's a job shadow or an internship, just making progress in that regard. But our next question is, for those that are receiving support through the CHIDSE program, how are we connected to them, and do they need to pursue opportunities through us or CHIDSE or both?
So both. So the center, the CHIDSE Center for Leadership is a part of a different office on campus, but like with all departments across campus, we have really close working relationships. So throughout the year, different members of our team will go in and interact with the CHIDSE leaders, doing different workshops and seminars as they're preparing for their different experiences and just overall professional development. And so they can utilize both services to help them with those summer experiences or even postgraduate experiences. The CHIDSE Center can be helpful in helping them identify opportunities just as much as we can. So like I said earlier, it's career development does not happen in a bubble. Some students can get all the support they need through things like the CHIDSE Center or through their faculty advisor. But then we can be here to support them with all of the little steps that go along with application processes and interview processes. It doesn't matter how they find it, we're here to support them. And so those collaborations are really important to us.
Yep. Sorry.
So I see this question about engineering. Sorry, Josh. I've caught up with the chat. The engineering students that go on to finish their degree, so like the 3-2 program, I think is what you might be referring to. In a lot of situations, those students will end up working with the Career Center at that second institution because they do have more focused connections with engineering firms and other opportunities that those students would be interested in. But I will say that we will continue to support them, and this bleeds into this next question, even after they graduate. So those engineering students that go on to that second program, they're still Davidson students. And so we are still here. They will still continue to have access to all of our resources, including Handshake. To us, they are still a Davidson student, even if they're not physically present. And then the same goes for students after graduation. They will continue to have access to all of our resources. And we do offer advising. And it ebbs and flows. Right now, we're seeing a lot more requests from alumni to get in here and have conversations, as we're just facing, we're facing a more difficult economic circumstance. And so there's a lot of questions that alumni have as they're, considering, a career change, or, they're fighting for that promotion and things like that. So we are really focused on undergraduate students, but all of our services do remain available. We don't have, I'll be honest, we do not have a dedicated advisor for alumni. So they would continue to work with the advising team that they worked with while they were students.
And just to touch on the engineering question, I've worked with a few students this year. While obviously that's not a degree at Davidson, but we do have a number of alumni that are in that area, and we actually have a few local alumni that have their own firms. So we have had a few students who are able to get local internships with engineers through our alumni connections. But obviously that's not super common. And then like Jamie was saying, we've definitely had a lot of alumni reaching out. In the last 2 weeks, I've worked with 3 or 4 alumni, anywhere from 3 years out to 20 years out. So it's definitely something that we enjoy doing with our alumni.
But I think Josh's example for the engineering students, that's what makes us different, is we're able to offer high touch experience. So a student can come in here and say, this is what I'm looking for. We may not have those relationships built already, but we have the capacity to build those relationships on their behalf. And if in a lot of other situations at other schools, they might not have the capacity to do that. And so that's where, encouraging them to come in and talk to us. Just because they don't see it in Handshake, they don't see it on the website, that doesn't mean we can't make it happen for them. And I can honestly, I can congratulate myself on the hiring I've done over the last few years to say that this is a really great team who wants to do that for students. They want to find the thing that they're really excited about, and they'll go to no limits to make that happen for students.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hi. So is it typical enough that you'll have students come in any year that they are at school and just have absolutely no clue where they want to go or what they want to do? And like, is that a typical enough thing that we can reassure our own kids?
Yes, so you can reassure them that it happens multiple times every day, and that's why we have a dedicated position for exploratory students. So Ashley Bodie is in the position of exploratory career advisor, and that is specifically what she works on. So she's not only doing programming to engage them in different ways of thinking and introducing them to new ideas within the world of work, but she's also working with them one-on-one to help them navigate, to help them. So we would love for them to come in. Sometimes for us, it's the most fun when they're a blank slate and they just come in and they're like, I don't know what to do, but I think I should be here, and I'm here. And that's really fun to start helping the student identify their passions and their interests, and help them see the connections between their major and what the career options will be. So absolutely, they should feel comfortable coming in and saying that. It's also reassure them, we get it a lot. My mom told me to come in. I don't know what I should ask, but mom or dad told me to come in. That's a perfectly acceptable reason to come in as well. And so we'll never make a student feel bad, no matter what gets them in here.
Great, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And did the students see this presentation also that you're giving to us?
So it's a little bit different. They did, typically we would do a whole session for them in person during orientation. This year they received a video, oops, sorry about that. They received a video kind of much higher level, not this granular, just because we don't want to overwhelm and frighten them. So if again, you're welcome to share this video with them if you think they're ready to go to this level, but the video that they did receive is also on our YouTube channel, if you'd like to check that out just for context. It's a lot shorter. It's about 15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, I think.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So any last questions? Right, Davidson Outdoors taught me to always count to 7 after you ask that question, just to make sure somebody's not formulating their thought. So I think we are all set. I cannot reiterate enough how excited we are to have your students here. And we are really privileged that you've entrusted us with your students. My dad reminds me daily, not quite daily, but quite often, of the day that he left me on campus for the first time 800 miles away from home. And so I haven't experienced that myself yet, but I have 2 little girls that I'm starting to envision what that day will be like. So thank you for engaging. Your involvement in this session is a really, really great sign of how you're going to support your student throughout the year. And thank you for allowing us to do the same. So I hope everybody has a great evening. And please do not hesitate to follow up with us. You can email Josh or myself directly. You can email any of our advisors directly. And we are more than happy to assist you with whatever questions you have. All right. So thank you all so much, and have a great evening.